Hello everybody, back once again with another video ranking directors. So done one ranking David Cronenberg, one ranking John Carpenter. This one is Takashi Miike or Miike Takashi, I never know which way. So yeah, there they've got it as Takashi Miike. I think I've seen on some of them Miike Takashi, so I think because it's Japanese, maybe they say the names the other way around to what we do in England. So I think they say the surname first and then the or what you'd call a Christian name, but I've got a first name and I'm not Christian. Yeah, so next one, I think, spoiler alert, is going to be David Lynch. It's not that many directors I've got a lot of films of. Obviously, I like these directors. Not only have they put out a lot of films to buy, but the fact that I've got a lot obviously goes to show I've got a lot of stuff worth buying. Don't think any of these, even John Carpenter, um, sort of got a flawless filmography. So, John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, I haven't got any awful films, but if you've seen the ranking, then obviously say Ghosts of Mars by John Carpenter, and what the bottom one I had by David Cronenberg was. Maybe it was like his newer one. Oh no, Existenz. Not bad films, but it's just not films I love. And if they wasn't by those directors, then I probably wouldn't have sort of bought them, kind of thing. Whereas at one point years ago, I was trying to buy all the films by certain directors. So yeah, Miike Takashi is a very, what's the word? Industrious. Is that the correct word? Prodigious. Basically, he's put out a lot of films. I think some years he was putting out like 4 or 5 films at his peak. Don't think he's really done I wouldn't say a Western film, but all of these foreign language and subtitles. Whereas some of the foreign directors out there that started off, making films in their native language did go on to make sort of Hollywood films in English with English actors and things. Like Hideo Nakata, that directed The Ring. I think he actually did the American remake of The Ring, which obviously is more like a Hollywood kind of film. But anyway, I'll stop waffling on and get on with the ranking. So there are quite a few of these I haven't watched. So obviously I'll just put them near the bottom of the pile because there's not too much I can say about them if I haven't seen them. Least favourite I have seen out of all these so far. Let me move my cat scratching post thing. It's in the shape of a cactus. Nice for the summer. Anyway, one Missed Call. Yeah, it wasn't awful. I might need to watch it again. Arrow did the trilogy sort of box set. Well, I say it's a box set. It's not really any bigger than a normal Arrow sort of standard jewel case. So like that kind of one, it comes in, but with like the 3 discs in. Maybe it's slightly thicker, I don't think so. But yeah, I remember this one just being a bit of I wouldn't say generic. It's still well shot because Miike Takashi has still got some originality and the sort of main creature in it. I don't think it shows it on the back. It does look quite creepy, but yeah, I'd say this one on the more forgettable out of his films, and it is a bit by the numbers, really. It's kind of a bit of a riff off of like The Ring, The Grudge, but especially The Ring, where obviously someone rings you. So I guess this is kind of scary to the certain generation that are all on their phones all the time. Maybe people that seen it probably started like prank calling them to wind them up and stuff. But so I haven't seen. I won't talk about the ones I haven't seen too much. Graveyards of Honor. It's got the original by Kinji Fukasaku, and then sorry, I wasn't showing you that then. Yeah, Kinji Fukasaku, I think is how you say it. And then obviously the Takashi Miike up to date remake. I picked that one up because it's a nice Arrow one, and yeah, I do try and pick up most Miike Takashi Miike, whatever you call him, because I will get around to watching them all eventually. Job I'm doing on that at the moment, I find it hard to get too much time to watch films. I work long days, like 10 hours plus, and then once I get home, I'm usually tired and stressed, and because I've got like a managerial job, even on my days off, they'll bloody message me problems to solve, and someone needs to be disciplined, so you've got to pop in to do that. So saying that, before COVID, I had a time where I couldn't get to watch many. Then obviously COVID came along. I think that year I spent like 5 or 6 months in lockdowns. So I've got through a lot of films then. So, you could say you never really know what the future's going to hold. If I was to get made redundant tomorrow, then I'll be watching a lot of films. I mean, that's not a good thing, but I guess you've got to see a positive in every scenario. So next you've got Terraformers. So I spoke about these Arrow ones before in the Arrow collection. But yeah, I haven't seen this one, but heard it's a bit like Starship Troopers kind of version. So yeah, obviously these ones I haven't seen, I'm just ranking them lower. They could be brilliant. I've heard this one's really good. Lady the Immortal in the Steelbook. Oh yeah, so when I did my Steelbooks video, well, once about Steelbooks, it was like 88 films. The one Criterion I own, 101 films. I think that was it. And then the Steelbooks. And yeah, I forgot to show this one because it's in with the arrow. I basically think it's like a kind of samurai sort of film. It's meant to be quite sort of gory and good, like blade fighting of swords and stuff. But yeah, a few people have said on older videos I need to get around to checking that out. Right, these two I have seen, but I can't remember them that well. But basically, when I first started buying all these Tartan Asia Extreme collection was, yeah, probably 10 years or more ago. And it's about 80. I did watch majority, I'd say like 70% or so of them kind of when I first got them. And I was like binging them. So not only can I not remember them after all that time, some I can. So obviously, you know, those ones really stand out. Some I've gone back to rewatch since. And then some, where I was watching so many, say with these Dead Alive trilogy, they do just kind of jumble into one. So I can remember the first one the most, which is a bit higher. But yeah, number 3, number 2, sort of here on the list, just because, yeah, they just sort of fade into sort of not they're not generic or anything. From what I remember, they were really fun, over the top kind of comic, not comic, comical, but like what's it, like a manga, anime kind of hyper, over the top sort of violence and filming. Yeah, I mean, not too much I can say about those. Again, I will have to rewatch these. Doing these videos is just giving me so many films to sort of rewatch. It's just hard getting round to them all. Next, I'll put these as a trilogy. Watch these again. Can't remember them too well, but I think it's known as the Is it the Triad? The trilogy? It's basically like 3 crime films about the Oh yeah, Miike Takashi's masterpiece Triad Society trilogy. Yeah, so from the Triad Society, this one I probably remember the most. Rainy Dog, one with the guy with like the tattoos on his back. Ley Lines, I think, was quite a strong one. Shinjuku, I don't think I've actually watched that. I know there's one of these 3 I haven't seen. Yeah, I mean, quite hard to do a ranking on directors when you haven't seen all their films, or you know, there's some you can't remember. So I guess I should have done a bit more researching before I did these. But like I say, there's so many films on the back log to watch. But also, you know, maybe this will give somebody idea. The main reason I do this channel and that really, it's nice to sort of talk to people and have feedback. You know, when I started out, I never expected to be getting many views or subscribers or comments. It was more just about sharing the love of cinema, but also, you know, if I can sorry, I don't know if you heard that nutter shouting outside. I've got the door open because it's hot. But anyway, don't know. Yeah, you know, if I can recommend some films that go on to be people's favourites or whatever, then kind of feel like my job is done. You know, there's films I would never watched that I've been recommended by people that gone on to be like cult classics in my mind. So yeah, that's really the main reason I do it. But it's nice to sort of have people to talk to about films, because none of my mates are really into films the same way I am, or they're into the, you know, more commercial stuff. They don't watch these sort of foreign languages, and they watch like Eraserhead by David Lynch or some Alejandro Jodorowsky. They just wouldn't get it. They're more into the Fast and Furious and crap like that. Agitator. Yeah, this is quite a good one. Quite a violent. I mean, all of his films are violent, really. Bit more of like a revenge kind of one, really. But yeah, like it says, it's quite sort of darkly comedic and yeah, really sort of stylish. I'll talk about it when we get to it, so I don't spoil it. But there's another one reminds me of a slightly sort of stronger, more extreme version of The Agitator, City of Lost Souls. Yeah, I like the way this is sort of shot. It's not futuristic, but it sounds weird. But the way the city they shoot it in kind of feels a bit more like what's that John Carpenter film I was speaking about it the other day with Snake Plissken, Escape from New York. It's kind of got that sort of vibes to it. Again, it's in the Shinjuku district, so it's part of that sort of, with those gangsters, extreme violence you do expect from him. But yeah, he's on a mission to rescue his girlfriend that's being deported from Japan. I am reading this off the bat. I can sort of remember this, but like I say, sometimes I get these mixed up, so I thought I'd double check. But yeah, that is one of the more memorable out of these ones that I've only sort of seen once. This one, I haven't watched yet, but I've watched the other ones off of this, and I really like the sort of packaging, the trilogy by Arrow. It's like a nice release, and yeah, the original is good, and I've heard people saying Takashi Miike has really made this up to date into more of a family film. So obviously he's done the remake of the Great Yokai War, and that is apparently his least violent, kind of most family film. From the other ones I've seen, don't really have much gore or violence. I'm guessing the 15 on this is probably from the Miike Takashi one. And then you've got Dead or Alive 1, which is the best. I think I'd actually seen this before I really knew who his name was and before I started getting into his films. I think one of my mates, who, well, I hadn't seen him now in 15 years, but he used to really be into his like foreign cinema, and he introduced me to one you'll see later on the list. And you've got The Three Extremes. So this is three short films, really good directors: Park Chan-wook, Miike Takashi, Fruit Chan, three of my favourite from the Tartan Asia. Park Chan-wook, I'm sure you know him from Old Boy and Lady Vengeance first. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Oh, what's the name of the other one? I was talking to Roy Barrett about them, but yeah, I'm having a mental block at the moment. Also, I'm trying not to go on too long. But yeah, Miike Takashi just does one segment, so it's kind of like an anthology sort of thing. Well, they don't have a wraparound story, but it's like three shorter stories. So here's one box. It's about a female novelist with childhood trauma, narrated almost without words. So yeah, it's quite original, quite sort of disturbing stuff. Most of them are. His short film we've got coming up later is really, really intense. Had some scenes that really sort of made me cringe, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So I showed this one, Visitor Q. I showed it in the Tartan Age Extreme. So I was meant to rank 10, I ranked 9, and then because I was sort of pushing them back by accident, I forgot to show A Tale of Two Sisters, which is not only one of the best Tartan Age Extreme, but one of the best, um, sort of, I think it's Korean, but one of the best Asian films slash ghost story kind of horror. It's really subtle, and you don't really know what's going on, with a lot of twists and really well sort of acted and creepy atmosphere. But yeah, I just mentioned this one just because it's so off the wall. I mean, yeah, this might be offensive to some. When you hear the elements in it, like I said before, it's got like incest, necrophilia, but it's not done in such a, the necrophilia in it, for example, isn't done in a sort of necromantic way. It's sort of played in a dark comedy way, but you don't see it in as much detail. I'm not going to spoil it, but the way it comes about is sort of more of a surreal kind of way. Then, yeah, even though this film is kind of disturbing, it's yeah, it sounds weird. It's weird to say with a film with this content, but I say it's not really mean spirited as such. It's more just bizarre. Yeah, it didn't really affect me as much as I thought it would going into it. I thought this would be like sort of emotionally disturbing, but it's just bizarre. But it is really well made and really holds your attention. And some scenes in it are just, you've never seen anything like it. Next Gozu, this is another one I mentioned when I was showing the Tartan Asia Extreme. And I sort of showed Audition from Miike Takashi, and then mentioned a few of these. That are some of the sort of more memorable ones. But yeah, it's basically bizarre. Some it's a bit to do with like what do you call it? Like breastfeeding, and a woman's like spraying milk everywhere, and then this weird Gozu like cow-headed monster come. Yeah, I won't go into it too much because I don't really understand it. It's not all over the place. It has got a sort of story and a plot, but a bit like David Lynch's Eraserhead. You understand it, what's going on. It's not a jarring film in terms of one. It's all over the place, but it is that kind of almost poetic surrealism to the point where afterwards you're like, I understood the plot, but what the hell was actually going on? Um, this one, Masters of Horror. So I've got two. Yeah, it does say it on the back, so I don't have to open it all up. I've got two parts of this. I think there's four of these boxes. Really underrated, actually, some of the films on these boxes. Some really good directors. A few of them, by the better directors, don't make films as good as you'd expect. So yeah, Toby Hooper's Dance of the Dead, I can't remember being too great. But yeah, Takashi Miike's segment on this is Imprint. So this was originally on, I think it was American TV. I'm pretty sure Imprint was the only part that wasn't able to air it. It was just too much. They're like, yeah, this is a horror, but I think it was on like 9 o'clock or so. So they were like, your children wouldn't be watching it as such, but I think even like most adults wouldn't be um, what's the word, like prepared for this. So maybe they aired it and got a load of backlash, or they just didn't air it because they knew it was intense. But yeah, I mean, it's basically I can't really go into the plot too much; it'll ruin it. But it's some sort of torture scenes where they're like putting things under the woman's fingernails and just doing stuff which not only is sort of painful and spiteful, but like I've said before, I think when you see someone say having their leg sawed off in a film, I can't really relate to that because you can imagine it hurts, but you know, it, you can't really put yourself in that person's shoes. No pun intended. Whereas someone gets their fingernail ripped off, or like a really bad sort of, it sounds minor, but a bad paper cut, say on their eyelid, you're like, yeah, I can imagine how that would feel. So it sort of makes me cringe more. But yeah, it's sort of set in Japan. I think it's in like what you call a bathhouse. And there's these women that work in there, and then there's one really horrible woman that basically just sets up the other woman as a scapegoat and makes it look like she's been stealing. And then the women that run the bath house and that just turn on her and torture her. But yeah, this one really sort of got to me, to be fair. I've watched it again since, and it's not like after you're sort of traumatized, but yeah, at the time there were a few scenes that I don't look away from films no matter what's going on, even Serbian film and stuff like that. But this, yeah, really did sort of cringe me out. This one I was tempted to have top. It's in near the top. Let me have a look. I guess that's third because I've got a few edition. But yeah, it's close to making it to the top. If I had it on like 4K or slightly better way to view it, then maybe I'd enjoy it more. But yeah, this is one that I said my mate lent me this. He had like the original Blood Pack version, I think it was called. So it had like sort of plastic over it, and there was blood all under it, and it would all sort of move around when you like squashed it. I think all the blood dried up in the end on the versions, so they're not as sort of good anymore. But yeah, it was like a nice version. But yeah, I do need to upgrade this to like 4K. But yeah, I think it's based on like a manga. But yeah, this is hyper realistic, ultra violence. Really good choreography, good characters. So when I first started watching it, I assumed this guy on the front would be Ichi, the killer, but he's not. He's called. Oh, let me see if I can. Can I watch this one for about 5 years? I think I need to watch it again now. I might really. Can't see it on there, but I think he's called Takehara. But yeah, basically he's like slashed his own lips open, as you can see on the front, and he's got like rings that hold them together. And this isn't a spoiler, but there's one scene where a guy tries to punch him, and he like swallows his whole fist and then laughs, and then so one of them's a masochist, gets off on hurting and slaughtering, and then one's no, sorry, it's the other way around, isn't it? One's a sadist. So Ichi is like a amazing fighter. He's got like blades on his heels and a sword, and he's a sadist, but he's usually a real quiet guy. But he witnessed trauma, like a sexual assault on some girl in his class that he loves when he was younger, and it messed him up. So he's kind of like a sleeper agent. If you sort of say a certain thing to him, you can flip him out, and he'll just attack, literally slaughter a whole room of people in seconds, and they won't be able to fight back no matter how well trained they are. So it's a kind of cat and mouse of the ultimate sadist versus the ultimate masochist. So this guy Takehara, he likes to be like punched, and his old boss isn't a spoiler as part of the sort of blurb on the back, but his old boss dies or goes missing, I think. And the new boss, he wants him to like hang him up in chains and like punch him in the face, but he gets upset because he just can't hurt him like the old boss used to. So yeah, obviously once he hears there's a sadist going around mutilating and causing people extreme pain, then he wants a part of that. So he sort of tries to track him down. It's a cat and mouse of them finding each other. But yeah, some of the violence, not only, I mean, it's over the top in a kind of comic book kind of way, so it's not as disturbing. But yeah, I say the bit you can see on the back where he hangs up a guy by hooks and pours boiling what do you call it? Is it like shrimp oil, like fish grease, all over his back and head, and like melts his scalp? That is evil. And then a bit where, again, this isn't really spoilers because I think it sort of shows these bits on the back. He just sort of slashes up a hole. I think he goes up in an elevator with like 6 people. When the doors open, he walks out, and there's just blood and an ear stuck to the wall, and I think a human nipple like lands on like the table. It's just complete carnage. But also a scene where these 2 people pin this guy down and just start pulling his cheeks and stretching them and like ripping them. And yeah, again, that really made me cringe. But yeah, really good sort of entertaining film, and even though it's extreme, it's kind of a more simple narrative, really. A bit more of a plot than a lot of these ones. And then you've got Happiness of the Katakuris. I've got this Arrow version I've showed before. I think the reverse in that, if I can see it, yeah, it's the same as this DVD version. So obviously this is out of tartan. So I had all these Tartan Asia Extreme a long time before I really started collecting these like Arrow Blu-rays. So I've double dipped and upgraded on some of them. But yeah, as I've said before, it's like a zombie musical, whether these people own a guest house, would you call it? And they like, this isn't a spoiler, but they rob and kill the people that stay in the guest house. And they sing songs and they dance with zombies. And yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of weird films, Miike Takashi, but this is probably the weirdest. Probably takes a biscuit out of all of them, but not just weird in a kind of wacky sort of gozu visit a Q way. It is not really disturbing, this one. It's, I won't say a family film, it has got violence and that, but yeah, it's a bit more of a fun watch, and I never really usually into musicals. Can barely think of any musicals I've ever liked. I mean, some Disney films and Pixar films have got songs in, but it's just like a few, singing numbers, say 5 songs throughout like an hour and a half film. Whereas the thing I don't like about musicals is when they sing everything. Like singing "I'm just going to the shop," and it just doesn't really make sense of. And also, I don't get how meant to be a load of strangers and they all know the words and start singing along to the same song that they've never auditioned or learned. I just find a bit jarring with musicals. I heard that Repo and Genetic Opera was really good musical. People would like if they didn't like musicals, and I just couldn't get into that. Never seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I heard people say that's a good sort of cult one. Not seen The Greatest Showman, but all my mates tell me if you don't like musicals, you'll love that. But I've heard some of the songs from it, and they didn't really appeal to me. But yeah, this one, just bizarre, just an absolute mashup of genres, really. And then, this is probably my favourite, and one that affected me most well shot, I'd say. Not really a conventional story, but just does like a real big switcheroo. This isn't really a spoiler. I think most people know this, and I've said it before. But yeah, it starts as like a romantic kind of drama where a guy sets up like a. I don't know. Like I said before, I can't remember if it's a fake audition. There is no film, or he really is looking to hire for a film. But basically, the pretense of getting these actresses in is so he can interview them and meet them, and then try and date them and find a new wife, sort of thing. And obviously, one of the women he meets is a bit insane and doesn't sort of like being messed around and jilted and comes for him. Yeah, I was tempted to have Ichi the Killer higher than this in terms of entertainment. This is quite a slow sort of burn, which people probably know my channel know I do love slow burns as long as they do have a payoff on that. But yeah, really some crazy sort of disturbing scenes, some shocking scenes, shocking twists. Like I said before, the bit with the what do you call it, like burlap sack on the floor, one of the best jump scares I've ever seen. Uh, Really sort of coherent, flows well, good pacing for a sort of slow film. Yeah, I won't ramble on about it because I spoke about this. I know Sammy G really likes this one. Yeah, I'd probably say that's the best film he's made, technically, to me, and probably my favourite. I mean, whether you say you enjoy it, it's different. I watch it and I appreciate it, but yeah, I guess with all these kind of disturbing, ultra-violent films, you're not enjoying it the way you would a sort of, Toy Story that brings you happiness. But same as say Martyrs, so emotionally sort of scarring that I can't watch it too often. But when I do, not only is it engrossing, but it's just so well made and powerful. So yeah, that's sort of top one, the Miike Takashi ones, and then next we'll be back with David Lynch ranking. I don't think I've got too many of his. There's a few I'm missing. I think I've got about 10 or so. Have a little look around, see if there's any other directors I've got. Some I've got their all their films together on the shelf, and then some are sort of spread out, and there's some sort of more Hollywood directors, like say Robert Zemeckis, that if I looked, I probably got like quite a few by him that I just haven't got next to each other on the shelf, like Back to the Future, and then you do Castaway, which I actually don't have, which is pretty crazy, but you need to pick that up. Yeah, so anyway, stop rambling on now about I'm going to say his name right for the last time before I go. Miike Takashi, rather than Takashi Miike. But yeah, if you've never heard of this guy, then I'd say there's something for everyone. Most of his films are violent. There are a few more sort of family ones he's done that, not family as such, but not ultra violent. I think there was one called MPD, like multiple personality cop disorder cop, something. It's like a series, which is meant to be not quite as brutal. And then yeah, I'd say Happiness of the Katakuris and the Yokai Monsters. I haven't seen yet, but heard it's not as sort of it's not a horror. I mean, a lot of these, even the disturbing ones like Visitor Q and Gozu, aren't really horrors. They're bizarre, surreal sort of dramas. But yeah, you mean he's got a lot of films, and if you've never heard of him, then if you can stomach it, then yeah, Audition probably a good starting point, just because it's a really good film. Or Dead or Alive, actually, real sort of fun, easy to get into one, and then yeah, maybe like the part of Three Extremes or Masters of Horror, just because I think the Masters of Horror's one's about an hour long each episode, but I think the Three Extremes is an hour and a half film with 3 segments, so probably only 30 minutes or so. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Comment if you've got any that I don't have of his stuff, or you've got any views or opinions. But yeah, I'll be back again soon with the next video. Thank you, bye.